Good morning. Welcome to a special Sussex Sport podcast, FA Cup special, after Brighton's heartbreaking exit in the FA Cup yesterday. They lost on penalty 7-6 after a goalless 120 minutes against Manchester United. Solly March missed the only penalty in what was an exemplary penalty shootout, we have to say, by all the players, apart from that one effort. So I think we've all had time to reflect on it, even though it's now still less than 12 hours after we all got home last night. So a few train issues, I think. But we've all had time to reflect on it. Derren, what are your thoughts on the performance and the day itself?
The day itself was great. The great atmosphere at the stadium, and real big, huge credit to the Brighton and Hove Albion fans who, they packed out their allocation and created such a great atmosphere at Wembley. It was really something to see how they got behind the team, and as you say, the penalty shootout as well was in front of the Brighton and Hove Albion fans. For Solly March, as you say, a local lad who's been with Brighton for so many years now, and it's just sort of heartbreaking for him, really, that it was him that missed the penalty. And he's had such a brilliant season. He's sort of been playing the best football of his career. As De Zerbi said afterwards in his press conference, he is one of the key reasons why Brighton got to Wembley in the first place and is fighting for Europe. So I think it's going to really is painful for him for a while, but it's he can look back on this season, if he looks back on it as a whole, and think it's been a success. I think actually the game against Forest is a quick turnaround on Wednesday. And I think that's probably the best thing for him, to get back into action straight away, and probably for a number of the players, really. It was such a big occasion against United. Emotionally and physically they'll be drained, but I think the quick turnaround will probably do them some favours in a way, just to get back on track.
Yeah. Frankie, what were your view on the game? Did you De Zerbi thought they were the better team and they deserved to win? Do you agree with that, or was it more even than that?
I think so, on the balance of play. I think it's a real credit to Brighton, because I think the main question going into this game was it was the biggest game that they've had for 4 years. And obviously 4 years ago they played a semi-final and they were there very, very much as underdogs. They sort of just turned up. Obviously they were playing an incredibly good Manchester City team, but they were nowhere near favourites or likely of getting through. I think this time they coming in as a team that's been one of the best teams this season in the Premier League, and it was a wonder of whether they could deliver on the big stage. This is the biggest game this squad of players has had, and they did. I think they kept true to their style of play. We saw them play out from the back really well. The two centre backs I thought were excellent, both on the ball and defensively. Kept Manchester United to sort of good chance. They had a good chance, but they never had any clear cut chances in the whole game. There was a couple of good efforts from Fernandes and Anthony, and obviously Sanchez made a great save in extra time, but they were all from outside of the edge, from the edge of the area, outside the box. So in regards to the performance, they didn't bottle it. They didn't wilt under the pressure. They showed that they can compete at that level, and I think that's a really good sign going forward. Obviously, we don't know how many of these players will be there next season. Obviously, there's a lot of talk of people like McAllister and Caicedo, who are, again, especially Caicedo, was excellent yesterday. So they've all shown that they can do it at that level, and it's not just a sort of a one season wonder thing. I think they've shown that they're capable of being top players. But of course, it's still incredibly disappointing for the fact that this was such a good opportunity. I think we spoke back at the sort of quarter-final stage that the fact that all the top six teams, bar the Manchester clubs, were out of the competition, and Brighton were playing so well. This was such a great opportunity to sort of cement this season as a fantastic one by getting to a final and possibly even winning it. So that from that perspective, it's an opportunity missed. But in regards to how for De Zerbi to sort of see where this club is at, I think he'd be very, very happy, because going forward, I'm sure he'll be saying to them in the dressing room after the game, is that this shows the reason you're so distraught is that you felt that you should have won the game, and to go and play Manchester United in an FA Cup semi-final with all the money that is spent on that squad and all the international players they have, and Casemiro is a 5-time Champions League winner. all those sort of players, to go up against them and be upset you didn't win because you felt you were the better team is an amazing thing, and something they should be very, very proud of. And as Derren said, look to capitalise on, because they can still make Europa League, which is a fantastic achievement, and they can do it again next season in playing in Europe. And I think they've got the capability to do that, as they showed yesterday.
Yeah, we touched on De Zerbi. Was obviously he looked absolutely gutted after the game. Sam, you were in the mix zone with Frankie to chat to a couple of the players. What was the mood like in there after the game?
Yeah, it was very down. Just the players looked completely crestfallen. Really, we managed to speak to Lewis Dunk, Adam Webster, and Joel Veltman. Fair play to them for stopping to chat, really, because it must have been a really difficult time to talk about it and try and sum up their feelings, really, because it must have been just heartbreaking for them after the amount of effort they put into the game. But I think, yeah, it was difficult for them to look forward to the Premier League season. And there was obviously talk about using this as kind of motivation to try and get to those European places. But I did think they didn't want to talk about that too much. I think they were trying to mainly kind of just get over this game before they think about anything else, kind of thing. But I think there definitely is so many positives to take from the game itself. Really, as Frankie said, they can more than held their own and easily could have won the game. If you think about the chances towards the end of the game, especially with Matoma, just that slight heavy touch that took it away from him. Same with Undav as well. On another day, he could have put it in the goal, and just those fine margins. And it's so gutting that it comes down to that. And it just shows how brilliant Brighton have been all season, that they can, as Frankie said, to hold their own against a team that spent millions and millions of pounds on their squad. And yeah, you just hope they try and keep as many of these players as they can next season. Obviously, it's going to be difficult with them. Caicedo and McAllister are probably the most likely to move on. But it's been a great season. You just hope that it doesn't derail them and they can keep the motivation and the confidence going to get those places in for Europe next season.
Yeah, I mean, Derren, what do we think it means for the rest of the season? Do you think this is now motivation? Right, we've missed out on the FA Cup. Europe's the next thing, or do you think it is going to be a real knock to them?
Yeah, De Zerbi spoke afterwards about closing the page and moving on. I don't think it will be quite as easy as that, because it is good that they've got the Forest game next, but the fatigue and the injuries that they already have in the squad could be a factor. So it's, Ferguson's out, Danny Welbeck's looking dodgy as well now. They've still got issues with Tarek Lamptey, Adam Lallana, Jeremy Sarmiento. And, they're all players that can make a difference on this run-in. So they've got nine games left. And, Europe is there for them, but it's going to be a battle for them. They've got Forest, Wolves. They're going to be two battles. They're both fighting relegation. Then they've got Manchester United again. Everton, it's going to be a battle. They've got Arsenal, Newcastle, two really tough games. Southampton, relegation battle they're in. That's going to be tough. Man City, and then Aston Villa to finish on. So, that's a tough run-in for Brighton with a depleted squad. So they're going to have to really pick themselves up quickly, starting on Wednesday if they're going to, realise this European dream. So it sounds harsh, but they're really going to have to just, put this game to bed and move on quickly.
Yeah, and obviously, Frankie, with Liverpool obviously starting to fire a little bit as well, do you think Brighton can still make it? It's in their hands, isn't it?
It is indeed. I think Derren is right, though. I think the issues with the squad might be their only downfall. I think what was interesting from yesterday was they have a game obviously in 3 days' time, and obviously the focus was, of course, on the semi-final, but he only used 2 substitutes. So in regards to how he starts in Nottingham Forest, he's still got 9 of those players, first team key players that played 2 hours of football less than a week ago. So whether he starts similar players or whether he uses his bench, we looked at the bench yesterday. Obviously, Gilmore is, I believe, 2021, but that's obviously still very young. The rest of them, I think, are all sort of 18, 19. Does he throw them in for such a big game away from home? I think the way the Premier League is set up for this run-in is every game that Brighton play from here until the end of the season, they're playing against a team that's fighting for something, whether that be survival, whether that be European football, whether that be the title. There's no sort of team that is safe from anything, really, or not wanting to achieve anything. So they can't, take their foot off the gas. They can't be anything other than perfect. And they are then putting a lot of responsibility on a number of key players, especially sort of Caicedo and McAllister. I think the fact that neither Ayari or Gilmour came on yesterday was a real indication of how important those two players are. But they're going to be running to the ground. Like I say, 2 hours of football, especially in the centre of midfield, is a lot of football. And then to go to Nottingham Forest and expect it to perform at that level again is a lot to ask. So that is the worrying sign. They are competing against teams, but this was to be expected. They're competing against teams like Liverpool and Tottenham, who have got bigger squads and have spent more money. But, Brighton are there because they have been playing as well, if not better than those sides. But games will now be coming thick and fast, and whether the squad can compete with that will maybe be the issue. But in regards to the actual quality of those first team players, they could very much be up there. But only time will tell when we see the Forest game on Wednesday.
Absolutely. Jacob, sorry, I haven't come to you yet. Darren said at the top of the show that the Brighton fans were magnificent yesterday. You spoke to some before the game, and you tried to speak to some after the game, not with less success after the game, obviously. What was the mood with the fans before and after the game?
I mean, before the game, me and Sam were going around talking to a few Brighton fans, and it was a strange sort of atmosphere, because I think Brighton fans are more so just grateful to be there, and not in sort of a condescending way, but more, a lot of the fans mentioned, over the last 25, 30 years, there's been a whole lot of uncertainty for the club, with the With Dean, with playing at Gillingham and all that. So I think, for a lot of the older fans, especially, to be here at Wembley 2 times in 4 years, to be favourites in an FA Cup semi-final against Manchester United, I think they were just really happy to be there, and for the club to be in that situation where, it wasn't even so nerves, it was just happiness to be in that position as a club, which was quite, amazing to see, because I'm sure you could talk to fans from a lot of other clubs and they would have maybe had a different position. But yeah, they were really humble and really grateful to be in that position. Although they all thought they were favourites to win it, which I agree with. I sort of would put my money on Brighton to win it at the start. And then after the game, still, it was quite, although there were obviously a few angry fans after the game, as there would be after losing on sudden death penalties after a 0-0 FA Cup semi-final, they were still quite optimistic, quite happy. There wasn't as much animosity as there would be with a lot of other football fans in the league. And I think that's because of the history. And, a lot of Brighton fans said they deserved to be there. And it wasn't like, in 2019 where they were battling relegation and they were in the FA Cup semi-final and it felt like a bit of a blessing. They deserved to be in the semi-final, and they probably deserve to be in the final as well. So I think they were really happy to be in that position. Obviously disappointed with how it went, and maybe could have taken their chances better, but overall I think they're just happy with where they are at the moment, and they're really excited about where the club could be going in the next few seasons.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to finish off, I know you talked about Solly March at the beginning, Darren, but Frankie, Solly March, he must be feeling it. I know you and Sam said he just walked through the mix zone and he looked absolutely distraught in that. How hard do you think it will be for a player like Solly, who's born and bred Sussex, played for Brighton his whole life, to get over something like this?
Incredibly tough. He seems to be having one of the best seasons. Well, he is having the best season of his life in terms of statistically and also his performances, but he can't catch a break at times, because earlier in the season he missed a penalty by skying over the bar that lost Brighton the penalty shootout against Charlton in the EFL Cup. That knocked them out of that competition. That was a competition they were hoping to go far in as well under De Zerbi. And then, he bounces back from that. And like I say, his performances have got Brighton to the semi-final, as a lot of people pointed out yesterday. And then in a shootout, he takes another penalty and he puts it over the bar, and Brighton are out. So it will be very, very painful. And it will sting. But from seeing and speaking to Solly March back in January, I think it was, you can really tell he's a very tough character. He's a very strong individual, and he will be buoyed by the fact that if it wasn't for him, they wouldn't be there. He has been phenomenal this season. He's been, talked about being in the England squad. Many people feel he should have been in the last England squad, and he's just since De Zerbi has come in, he was already playing well under Graham Potter. He has got better and better. So it will hurt, and it will probably hurt for a long time. But in regards to his performances, I think we'll see Solly March back to his best very, very, very quickly, because that's the sort of character he is, and that's what's got him. That's what's got him this far as a player. So yeah, this isn't sort of the end for him at all. I think we'll see a renaissance for sure.
Yeah, Sam, I think during the game we were having a discussion, because I think I asked you and Frankie, I said, will he ever get picked for England? And we sort of said no. And it's a shame, isn't it? Because there's so many good players in that position.
Yeah, no, exactly that. He's kind of probably at the stage of his career now where it's unfortunately probably won't happen where he's got players in front of him for England that are younger than him. And it is a shame, especially after the season that he's had. But yeah, nothing that doesn't take away from the kind of success he's had, and he can still go down as a top player in Brighton's history, really. As a local lad, obviously with Lewis Dunk, it's so special for them to be involved in such a great season. Obviously, after the signings they've made and some top players, the fact they've stayed in the team and such integral parts of it is so good for the club and obviously the area as well. And I suppose kind of the relatable element to it for a lot of fans, I guess, as well as they kind of have those people that they know they've lived locally as well. So yeah, it is such a massive shame that it had to be Solly March to have missed a crucial kick, but it could have been anyone. It could have been anyone really last night, and it's not his fault at all. And you have no idea what kind of pressure he was under at that stage of the game. And it is a massive shame for him. But as Frankie said, he's had an amazing season, and it doesn't change that at all. And he'll still go down as one of the players of the season, definitely.
Yeah. Look, we got, like we said, Nottingham Forest on Wednesday night. We did score predictions last week for that, but I don't know if that changes now because of injury picked up and that. Derren, I can't remember what you predicted, but what are you predicting for?
Yeah, I said a 1-1 prior to the FA Cup semi-final, and I think I'm going to stick with a 1-1. And I don't think that would be a bad point considering everything that they've been through, and Nottingham Forest will be. They'd have looked at that match and thought, we've really got a chance here. They can see that Brighton are quite depleted. They can see that they've had a very tough, 90 minutes plus extra time and the emotions that go into that. So I think Nottingham Forest will really fancy their chances, and they have to get something from the game, Nottingham Forest. But I think Brighton will show a real backbone, and I think they will fight for a point, maybe better. But yeah,
excellent. Sam, predictions for Wednesday?
I agree. Yeah, I'd say 1-1 with 120 minutes Brighton playing, and the tiredness, and as Derren said, the emotion that probably has been taken out of them from that. And Forest, they had a good game against Liverpool at the weekend. I think they were unlucky to lose. I think it was a high scoring game. They came back twice, but just lost out at the end. So I think there's some fighting in Forest there, and obviously they are fighting for their lives to stay up. So, 1-1 draw. I agree.
Frankie?
I'm actually I said 1-1 last week. I'm going to go for 0-0. I think from what I saw on Sunday, I think Brighton are defending so well at the moment. I think Duncan Webster probably, if not the best centre-back pairing in the Prem right now. If they start again on Wednesday night, I think they will keep Nottingham Forest out. But I felt the only criticism I would have of Brighton yesterday was they were a little bit toothless up front, especially after Danny Welbeck came off injured. We don't know how long he'll be out for, and obviously Evan Ferguson isn't likely for Wednesday either. So I think they will be a little bit toothless in attacks. I can't see them scoring, but I think they'll have more than enough to keep Nottingham Forest out. So I think a 0-0 draw.
Yeah, Jacob?
Yeah, I'm kind of torn. I mean, I think it's going to be a draw, whether it's 0-0 or 1-1. I think I'll probably lean towards 1-1. I think the guys made some great points. At Wembley yesterday, Brighton looked a little bit toothless. They're really, really crying out for a good striker, and obviously with Ferguson injured and perhaps Welbeck out as well, and not having the best game, you can't see him scoring tons of goals. But defensively, they look strong. But maybe Forest after that game against Liverpool, they're having a bit of a bounce. They're feeling a bit more confident. Where Brighton on the other end of the spectrum might be feeling a little bit disheartened. So I think I'm probably going to go for 1-1 for that one.
Yeah, I think there'll be a draw as well. So you can catch up with all the stuff we did yesterday at Wembley. So there was live blogs, player ratings, picture fan galleries, videos. I think there's 7 or 8 videos we did yesterday of the fans, the penalty shootouts. I did a diary of my day at Wembley. So there's plenty to see on sussexworld.co.uk. So please visit that. We normally talk about Crawley Town on our Sussex Sport Weekly podcast. We're not going to go into any depth, but they beat Hartlepool 2-0 and pretty much secured League Two safety. Dom Telford scored 2 goals. If you haven't seen his second goal yet, see it. It's great. It's a fantastic
goal. What a goal.
What a goal. I mean, the touch was absolutely magnificent.
Messi,
yes, absolutely. Yeah. So it will take a minor miracle now for Hartlepool to overtake Crawley. Crawley will have to lose both games, and Hartlepool will have to win both games. The remaining 2, I can't see Crawley not getting a point from their last 2 games. So no, it's great to see Crawley survive almost. So you can see all the news and reaction from that on sussexworld.co.uk. But thanks, guys, and thanks for all your work yesterday. You can go and get some sleep now. So take care.